Welcome to the Lost and Found podcast. I'm your host, Amanda. Join me each week as I rediscover my life's meaning, my passions, and my place in this world after leaving behind the only dream I've ever known. If you are dealing with self-loss, identity changes, career transitions, or you are still trying to figure out your life's purpose, then you're not alone. Join me. Wanderers are always welcome. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Lost and Found podcast. This is your host, Amanda. So excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for tuning in and supporting the show. Today's guest is someone that I've had the privilege of knowing for over a decade, and someone whose story truly embodies what it means to go from lost to found. Emmalee Rainey is a licensed social worker and mental health therapist based in New York City. She began her professional journey as a 7th grade science teacher with Teach for America, where she spent over a decade supporting students in and out of the classroom. But her journey didn't stop there. After years of deep personal growth and graduate school at NYU, Emmalee transitioned into full-time therapeutic work, where she now helps individuals navigate anxiety, ADHD, relationships, and emotional overwhelm through a client-centered, compassionate approach. She is also a fierce advocate for community, joy, and healing, whether she's leading the Ole Miss alumni group in New York City, co-hosting Mississippi in the Park, or belting out karaoke. She shows up fully as herself and helps others do the same. I'm honored to bring my sorority sister and college friend to today's episode. We talk a lot about letting go of who you thought you were supposed to be, how therapy can help you reframe your identity, and the powerful ripple effect of living in alignment. This is a heartfelt, grounded conversation about becoming who you really are, even if that means starting over. So I hope you enjoy it, and let me know what you think of the episode. As if I'm a pro, but it's whatever. I will be. We're using positive affirmations in this call.
Yes, you will be. Just like your program is going to pop off. Just like my TikTok is going to pop off.
It's gonna pop off. I love it. When I saw you start to do that, I was like, God, I need to be more brave on the internet. Cause I mostly post the clips from the show. I don't post me talking about things. And so I'm starting to lean in a bit more where I've been really practicing a lot. I don't know if you do this with your clients or not, but practicing listening to my intuition and leaning into what that actually feels like when I'm receiving whatever the message is. And last night's one, I got one that I posted that was right after I did a workout, and it was just in my head. I heard this voice that was like, you know what sucks? Not getting what you want. But you know what sucks more? Never going after what you wanted in the first place. And I posted it, and it was straight up after the workout, sweaty, nasty, because I was like, I have learned that the podcast episodes that get the most comments back or engagement back are usually those, when they're the solos, they're the ones where I had those intuitive thoughts and then did the script and wrote it and recorded it. And so it's kind of like, all right, if you start hearing a voice or you start hearing the thing, you just need to put it on and say it and see what happens. So
it's just trying to guide you in the right direction, right?
Yeah.
It is wonderful that we have an internal monologue, but so very few people use it.
Yeah, well, and I want to hear about your monologue too, because it sounds like you've had quite the adventure getting to where you are today too. But for those of you that don't know, welcome to this podcast. This is the Lost and Found, where I talk about my feelings and hope that somebody reciprocates. Today, we've got a really great show here. My good friend, Emmalee Rainey, we met in college. We were sorority sisters at AOPI. I have not actually talked much about my Ole Miss experience on the show, other than to talk about the hottie toddy. Yeah. Everybody say hello to Emmalee. So we actually have not seen each other since college. And I'm not going to admit how long ago that was, but 11 years, 10 years, 12 years. May would be 12 years. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. And that's wild, right?
Yeah. It makes me feel really.
No, we're babies. Gary Vee likes to say that we are babies. So I'm going to take him at his word. But we're here to talk today. She is a licensed mental health social worker, right?
Licensed master's in social work, so LMSW.
Okay.
I'm working towards CSW. We just got to take another test. I'm not looking forward to that, but making it happen.
I love that, and I'm proud of you. That's really hard to go back to school when you're an adult and working full-time somewhere else, because I remember trying to do grad school and work full-time, and I wanted to die. So I don't know that I could do it again. But welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. Yeah. Well, tell everybody a little bit about, your life coming up. We met at Ole Miss. Did you know that you wanted to go into social work there, or did you started as a teacher first and then kind of transition? So tell me about that initial love of helping others.
I'll be very honest in saying that, like, I had no idea that I was going to be a teacher during college. Like, in fact, I actually went to college and thought, I'm going to be a psychiatrist. And I was pre med and psychology. And so, for a time period, that was something I really was invested in working towards. My mom had worked in hospitals my entire life. She was a nurse administrator. It was wonderful, like having experiences in which I could see like her working with others and the stories that she would tell about how fulfilling that was. But it was also something that I felt myself kind of doing all the time. I was talking with friends about their problems. I was holding space for people and like enjoying conversations that were more in depth, especially like dealing with my own past experiences, trauma, family conflict, things of that nature. I had a different idea of what psychiatry was going to be. I actually went and shadowed at UMC in Jackson and realized that psychiatrists don't really get to spend a lot of time talking to clients, right? They are observing, they're studying, they're looking at symptoms, they're providing medication, they're tracking response to medication, but that wasn't really what I wanted to do. And so we thought a lot about it. And at this point, we're in our senior year at Ole Miss, and we're like, okay, maybe we should dry run, take the MCAT, and see what happens. But we really don't think that we're going to do this anymore. And at that point, I had already been doing, I think I was finishing up my term as vice president of Ole Miss, and someone recruited me from TFA, like literally in the Starbucks in the Union. Now, like I'm walking
Wow.
around the Starbucks. There's this someone there was talking to one of my friends, and didn't know this guy. I think his name was Miles. And he comes up to me and he was like, oh, hey, this person over there, who was like, bye, Emmalee, see you later. Like, as he walks off and leaves me talking with this stranger, hey, like, this person said that you're really involved here at Ole Miss. I would love to talk with you about Teach for America. And I'm like, okay. At that point, I knew and had very close friends in New York for Teacher America as well as in the Delta. And so I talked a lot with them about their experience. And so I was open to interviewing and talking with them. And the more I learned about the program, the more I thought to myself, okay, I'll do this for a couple of years. It'll get me to New York, which is where I wanted to go. And I can see what it's like to work with
Yeah.
young humans and humans in general. And from that point, figure out what I want to do next. Joke's on me, because then we spent the next decade plus in education, which was very rewarding. I got to teach children all the way from like seventh grade until the point where they went to college, right? Because in some cases, I was working with them all through middle school as their teacher. And then eventually I transitioned into social work and then went to high school with them and got to watch them graduate. And it was just such a wonderful experience seeing them grow and change and getting to educate them in more ways than one. So that's kind of how we ended up at Teach for America. They kind of like cold called, found me in a Starbucks. And then I interviewed and they were like, we think we're going to put you in the Delta. And I was like, I don't know about that. And they're like, why are you like, why are you uncertain about this? Like, you're from Mississippi. You should love this situation.
Right.
And I was like, I want to get as far away from Mississippi as possible. Right. Like, this is, and it's not to say that I don't love where I come from, because I
No.
do,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
Like Southern girl through and through. However, I had been exposed to and experienced nothing, it felt like, and the way that I live my life and the belief systems that I have were not necessarily always supported where I grew up. And so I thought that it was really important to really get to know what it looked like to be outside of the state of Mississippi or the state of Texas, because I went to high school there. And then be able to kind of grow and change and learn experiences and meet diverse communities. And so it was super important for me to get somewhere, anywhere outside the South. And was basically like, if you don't place me somewhere outside of Mississippi, I won't do this program. And I was like, they are going to hate me and we're never getting asked back. And then the next, I think 3 weeks later, it was like, you've gotten placed in New York City. And I was like, oh, damn. Okay. Well, now we actually have to do this.
Now we actually have to make it happen. New York, Emily, that has to come true. Yeah.
But it was fun. It was, oh my God. And I'm sure you have more questions about that, but that's kind of, it was very haphazard and I don't regret a thing about that.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
What did you end up teaching? Because if you didn't teach psychiatry or psychology to the seventh graders.
No, no, although, you kinda do on some level, you're teaching them really everything.
Like, it's life skills hidden under a subject. Yeah, yeah.
So, I actually taught 7th grade science, so originally, then I moved up to 8th grade. So, 7th grade science is like earth science, a little bit of chemistry, not really,
Mhm.
more like Newton's laws, motion, the solar system, density, like different types of like force and just energy and all that. As we've gone to 8th grade science, it's now you're dealing with the human body and environmental science, as well as like dealing with, we talked a little bit about the animal kingdom and living things in general. So, and it's actually state tested. So, the first year that I went into 8th grade science was a wonderful year, and it was a new content, and I really enjoyed it. And I felt like I had more knowledge about that initially, just from my pre med track. And then the pandemic hits, and so we're literally in the middle of dissecting frogs on March something. I don't remember what date it actually was. I think it was like the 13th or so.
Yes.
And my principal comes into the room and they're like, "Hey, so we know that you're like knee deep in formaldehyde right now, but we need you to pack it up and we need to get the kids out of the building within the next hour because someone just tested positive with COVID." And you're like, "Oh, okay."
Got it.
So I like, had to put like my calm mode on. And I'm like, "All right, guys, everybody's gonna hand me their scalpels," and because like you have to collect the scalpels one by one because people can't leave the room with the scalpels because chaos. So that was a whole situation, and then we walk out of the building, and I spend the next year in my apartment. It's just too much and not enough.
Yeah, God, I can't even imagine trying to teach science, which is so hands-on sometimes, especially for 7th and 8th grade science. I remember you're always doing something. You're touching it, you're testing it, you're seeing how it works in reality. You're doing the egg drop off the roof or something. Like you're very involved. So how do you do that virtually with students and not lose their attention or keep them in class and get them to show up? And it's in New York, I'm sure you probably had to, I don't know if you worked at a private school or one of the public schools, but the diversity that you're dealing with, if there's other cultural languages or differences or different neighborhoods every kid's from, like it's a lot to keep track of, and it's already hard enough to do it in person. I can only imagine your life virtually.
Yeah. This was where I got really comfortable with filming videos because you were very much, I felt I was not even on TikTok at the time. I had TikTok, like I would scroll kind of, but I wasn't
Yeah.
posting on TikTok. And I was seeing on there how other people were posting content. And so then I started posting content like that for the kids on my Instagram. So like I made a social media specifically for teaching to like give like study tips and things like that. And then would have to film these videos and then interact with them on Zoom, which kids really love it when they get to do labs in person, not so much when they have to do that online. But we had a fun time still. I feel like there was a lot of like fun Zoom chats and things like that. And I'm also like at this time in social work school still. Like I had been going in person at NYU, and then I'm now virtual and virtual for both classes. So the whole day I'm on the computer, and that also felt very chaotic. But it was awesome because I was actually getting to apply a lot of the things I was learning in social work school into my teaching practice, which really enriched my work there.
Yeah.
So I was in Harlem for about 11 and a half years.
Wow. It's so fun though. Does it ever do you what is it, the oh no, it's escaping me. It's that show on ABC, public elementary school. Abbott Elementary. You're talking about this, and I'm just envisioning you like walking down the hallway and like having to go through the chaos that they do on that TV show. It's so cute and it's so well written and so well acted and stuff. Remember dealing with like in school stuff that we had to do in Philly. Like I can only imagine it feels very similar in New York, where you're just kind of like your resources are what you got and you do the best you can. And half the time you're just making sure that they get out of there alive versus freaking out about whether or not the testing is 100% perfect.
Yeah, I mean, you really are. You're working to help them improve like their testing data and obviously their grades. But as a teacher in the city and especially in the public school system, like you're doing way more than that, right? kids can't learn if their needs aren't being met, right? So if kids come to school hungry, they're not learning in my class because they need a snack. So it's like, okay, I'm buying granola bars and keeping them in my desk and throwing them over. If someone's like, I'm starving right now, or not feeling good, or I have a headache, or I need some water. And then sometimes it's like, sometimes they're hungry and sometimes that means they're bored. And you're like, okay, let's get you up. We're actually going to move around and we're going to do an activity where we're doing some movement so you can learn about the molecules and how they move and things like that. And that way you're not trying to get out of my room and escape. But it's a cool experience, like educating, because you're getting to know a lot about children and their families. And that's a skill that I've definitely continued to use as a social worker and now as a therapist, because even when I'm working with children now, and I kind of work with all age groups at this point, but I'm doing care coordination with their families and with their primary care providers and talking with them about, here's some resources you can utilize for school. Here's some resources we can utilize at home. And then this is what we're doing in the office. And here's how we can connect all of that so that there is continuity of care across settings.
Oh, that's really smart. So that way, like, if you are treating a child, they're not having gaps in the system, right? Like they're not only relying on you that one time a week whenever they can actually see you. And if it's only for that 1 hour, it's not like they don't get to use it ever again after that. Because I kind of feel like they wouldn't get any compound interest built on their therapy if there's disconnect between the rest of the aspects of their lives, or if the other aspects of their lives are counterproductive to everything that you worked on with them, right? Is it ever difficult to try and get those other pieces on board with your plans? And like, how do you work around obstacles like that?
I mean, sometimes we're meeting people where they are, and sometimes we're meeting people where they are not, right? So, like, I will often find myself having conversations with parents. And in my experience, parents have always been very interactive and wanting to be involved. I think it's not a want issue, it's a capacity issue. Like, if I'm having to work 3 jobs, it's really difficult to navigate. Hey, I also need to contact the teachers, but I have to contact the teachers within this certain time period of the day, and they may be teaching class, so they may not be able to answer, and I may not be able to show up to the school for a parent meeting because that would cause me to lose my job. So, like, there's a lot of different factors going on. So I do find myself sometimes being like, hey, you have to work Monday through Friday. Thankfully, I have a weekend day. Can I call you on Sunday? Can we check in on this different day? Can we do X, Y, and Z? Is there a time that you can come in for this meeting? Like, I think we both know it's necessary that your child comes in person, because we're working on executive functioning and ADHD skills, and it's hard to do that online. So that part, it's a lot of conversations about, all right, how can we work together versus I'm not telling them what to do. I'm like, have you tried this? What does that look like for you in home? Is that something that feels like could be helpful to you? If it's not, what are some things that you feel like you could do? I can give you a list of like exhaustive options and we can work through trying them little by little. And I think that's the work that I try and do to build capacity as well as flexibility and continuity.
Yeah. And leaning into their flexibility and allowing the people that are participating in this particular construct to feel like they can contribute to the maximum level that they are able, right? Not that they're being reprimanded for not being able to do more, but just going, where are you? I will pick up where you are not, kind of a thing. And I think that that helps build respect and trust, and you look more like a teammate versus just another person in the system with them. You know, you've had all these years, you said 11 years in the same school, and you've had to watch your students grow up and struggle and evolve. What did those years teach you about resilience, especially in young people?
It taught me that people can overcome any circumstance as long as they have guidance and support and care, right? And everybody needs someone to support and care for them or to believe that they can. And that doesn't always look like doing it for them, right? I think it's the exact opposite. No, you can do this. Here are some ways you can do this. I'll support you. I'm not going to tell you what to do, because if I tell you what to do, you won't learn it. If I do it for you, you won't learn it. But I can give you support. I can guide you through that. And then you're going to feel so much better once you've been able to achieve this whatever the objective is, right? And sometimes that looked like kids being upset with me. Oh, well, why won't you just do this for me? Because if I do everything for you, or your parents do everything for you, or your teachers do everything for you, you don't actually ever learn. And that's going to cause more resentment towards themselves and towards other people. But I believe that our young people have the capacity to do so much more as long as the people in their lives tell them they can, as long as we build the idea of, I can be self sufficient, I can do this on my own if I believe I can do it. But beliefs without actions do nothing. So it's also important to teach that, hey, oh, you want to be a YouTube star? What does that look like on the small term? Because, like, that was a big thing. Like, coming out of the pandemic, kids were like, I'm going to get famous on YouTube. Okay. Do you have any YouTube videos? No. I'm
Right.
like, okay, well, how are we gonna get there, right? Like, how do you that's a wonderful goal. I do believe you're able to achieve it, but what does that actually start with? And they're like, okay, I'll throw up some YouTube videos. And I'm like, do you think it's that easy? Do we actually need to practice? Like, do we need to identify what we want to talk about first? Or do you just want to like film yourself playing games, which like some of them do,
Right. Like
right?
Twitch and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but they have to actually do that first, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't think about that," and that's, like, where the gap is, like, we have to kind of guide and model what it looks like to take actions, and that even small actions eventually lead to big goals.
What have you identified when you watch your clients or the students that you've worked with in the past follow through on the things that you're offering to them? What have you identified about their self-worth? Like, how does I would assume that action also impacts self-worth because we were talking about earlier, was having a really hard time when I left my old job and I started this as a side hustle, just a creative outlet. And I've learned a lot about myself by going through it and fumbling and making mistakes and ruining edits and like forgetting to post a video or, not knowing anything about YouTube, but putting it out there anyway and like just somewhat seeing what happens, but at least following through. And that has made me feel better about myself. It shows me that like I can keep promises to myself. Two, not as bad as I think it is, right? Like it's scary to be vulnerable and put yourself out there and try something new, but you can see something that you created on your own and it comes with so much more value, I think. And you care about it more and you want to improve it and grow it and nurture it. And I think that impacts your self-worth. So I'm curious, what does that evolution look like to you from your end as like the teacher and therapist and how does that manifest for your kids?
I'm big on the small wins approach. People will do or believe what they have believed or what they have gone through in the past, right? Like our brain literally, like if we were to imagine that the world was kind of our For You page, and our thoughts were all on that For You page. If I've always thought, oh, I can't do this or that's not possible, etc., I'm going to keep finding that on my For You page, right? And so I will see everything through the lens of I can't do it, it's going to be a bad day, etc. And sometimes we need some small wins, and metaphorically this could look like I do something that I know that I'm going to be able to excel in. I'm going to start trying to read 5 pages a day in a book if I'm a kid, or I'm going to start doing these quick win sheets to test my skills on something. And in therapy, it's like, I'm going to just practice getting up 5 minutes earlier, something small. And if I achieve that, my For You page starts to change, right? And so suddenly it's like, oh, there are more thoughts in there about, oh, you can do this. Oh, you can do the things that you said that you were going to do. And as the therapist, I then reinforce that thought process. Yeah, you're right. You have been able to do that. It sounds like this week, this was something that you were able to achieve. How is that different than what you were thinking last week? And then as the weeks go on, you see more and more of them waking up and feeling like today's going to be a good day because I'm going to make it a good day. And the For You page at the end of a 6 month period may be, damn, we're having a good day. We're going to have a good day all the time. I can try new things because I've tried new things before and they went okay. And reframing the thought process around it is okay to fail. Because when we fail, we have an opportunity to learn, which is still good. It doesn't have to be bad when we don't achieve the things we said that we were going to achieve because we learn from that. We keep moving and keep trying.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I'm glad that you were able to frame it in a way that they would understand. Everybody's on social media, so a For You page is the reality that they might be living in and the algorithm does that though. Like if you click on one thing or not, it'll feed you that same or similar information over and over again. So I know that like I accidentally clicked on like a Taylor Swift, pop culture thing once, and now my whole For You page is nothing but celebrity. Yeah, accidentally. Well, like I didn't get to go to the Eras tour. Like I really wanted to, but it was always sold out. Every city I wanted to go to, so I never went. And I also didn't have an extra $5,000 to drop on a ticket. So it is what it is. But I would follow along on that. But I would get all the celebrity gossip. So my For You page looks like Kardashian butts and drama. And it's not at all. It's not what I want.
Yes.
It's not what I search for, but now it's just full of it. And so I'm really grateful for the podcast's Instagram page, because that page is all the self-actualization stuff, the manifestation stuff, the positive, encouraging stuff, because that is the only things, it's the only groups that I follow on there, and it's the only stuff that I repost at all. It's luckily that's the page where I can get a lot of that good positive energy, versus my personal page is hot garbage, but it is what it is now. So I like that. And good. I'm not alone. That's the whole point of this show, is to remind me that everybody's freaking out at different levels compared to me, but everybody does at some point. I like that what you were talking about, though. It reminded me of an episode that Mel Robbins did where she talked about it's called the RAS in your brain, the reticular activation system. I'm butchering all this. I'm like, you might know because you talk about it.
I wish that I was a neuroscientist, but I
Anyway,
have heard of it, but
but
I don't
essentially,
know.
yeah, there's that neurological system in your brain that's set up to do that. So like you say these things, or you speak these things out loud, or you think these things about yourself or about the world around you, and your brain says, "Oh, that's a message for me. Like I need to start looking for those things because Amanda needs them, or Amanda's thinking about them all the time." So if I have a negative thought, or I say like yesterday was a bad day, today's going to be a bad day, my brain will find ways to make it a bad day. I'll step in a puddle, I'll miss my train, I'll be late to work, I'll get a failing grade in school, or I'll, whatever, I'll get grounded at home, or I'm just listing off all these things, right? I'll get my dog will get skunked. These things will happen, versus the reverse. And so in that episode, when she's explaining it all to you, she calls it, you're talking about like small wins every day. She calls it looking for hearts. And so she tells her brain, find a heart today because there's love all around you. And so at some point, ever since she started saying this to herself, she alleges that every single day she has seen a heart, like either in a 4-leaf clover, in a cloud in the sky. Yeah, a physical heart, like
It's like
a human
something
heart.
I love.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
like the manifestation of the heart shows up every day for her. So like either somebody makes a heart in her espresso that she orders, or somebody has a heart on a billboard, or there's a heart on a book cover that she finds. So like she has taught her brain to look for hearts. And so that's how it was trying to explain it to her listeners, that like you can teach yourself to look for the things that you are trying to manifest. So if you want to become an author, you can start to manifest like, I'll get an invitation to a book club, or I'll get an invitation to do like a writer's retreat somewhere, or I'll find an author on the bus next to me and we'll talk and like we'll trade secrets or whatever with each other. When you tell your brain these things, it starts to peak up and come out and see what happens. And that's slowly starting to happen with the podcast for me too. Like I'm starting to meet more people in the industry, more agents are reaching out to me to send their clients to my show. And like it just, things are happening faster than what I expected them to happen. Not obviously as fast as I would like them to happen, but like the positive direction that I knew could exist does exist, and it's starting to happen. And it just, you have to train your brain to think that way. You have to believe in it yourself, and you have to catch yourself when you say these negative things. I don't know if you have any like tips or tricks that you've done with your kids, because you're not perfect. I still deal with negative self-talk. I still deal with doubting myself. I still deal with imposter syndrome. But teaching yourself, I don't know if you can ever stop a negative thought, but teaching yourself to catch it and reverse it quickly, that's the skill set that like really needs to be developed.
Yeah, I definitely think, and it actually is a lot harder for adult clients to change this mindset. Kids, you can teach that skill pretty quickly. Hey, we're going to look for the good. Why don't you come back to me next week with something good that you found, right? And for kids, sometimes I'll be like, take a picture of cool things or good things that happened in the day so that you can remember it. Cause like you get back to the next session, they're like, "Miss, I don't even remember what we talked about," right? And I'll have to do a recap. But with adults will remember everything we talked about, but they'll be like, "Oh, I didn't really do that homework," or I didn't really. I tried to do that thing this week, but I found it difficult. And I was like, okay, good. We're still on the right track then, right? You tried it. It was difficult. It's not the same as we didn't try it because we thought it was difficult.
Mhm. It's different.
And so, yeah, and being able to talk through, okay, when I have a thought, I'm going to notice it and I'm going to question, where did that thought come from? Right? Where is the proof? If my thought process is, no one likes me, which, like, at one point or another, we have all felt. And if you haven't, then I don't
Then you're
believe you.
lying.
You're lying. But like at some point or another, we're like, nobody likes me, or I'm not good at this, or whatnot. And then my next question, and this is like, well, I'll always tell clients, they're like, because I swear it's like I'm a broken record. Where's the proof? And I'm like, yeah, no, but actually, where's the proof though? No one likes you. What proves that? And
Yeah.
sometimes there is proof though, right? Like if a client's like, well, that person doesn't like me. And I'm like, well, where's the proof? And they tell me something that's like very evident, or the person has said, I don't like
Yeah.
you. Okay. Well, sometimes we find proof for the things that we think because they are in fact true, and that's us just picking up on it. And at that point, what are you doing with that information, right? Can I control if that person likes me or doesn't like me? Nope. What can I do from there? I can figure out, okay, maybe that person doesn't need to be in my life anymore. If they don't like me, why are they my friend? Or why am I continuing to focus so much on what this other person thinks when they are not investing in me? We have to invest in us before we can invest in anybody else. So, really, I teach a lot of exploration and questioning. And that's kind of the same situation that I used to do as a teacher. And my theme, like for multiple years, was we are all scientists. So we're always like questioning, exploring, understanding the world around us. And I do the same thing as a therapist. All right, you came in this week and these are the things that came up for you. Why was that more front of mind this week? Why was that something you heard about this week? Where did it come from? What can you learn from it? Where do we go from here? Where does that feel? Where do you feel it? Where are you carrying it when it comes to like emotions and trauma? And did you actually feel it, or did you just talk about it? It's not only are we carrying these potentially negative and harmful thought processes, we're thinking, oh, well, I should be over this by now because I've talked about it a million times. And I'm like, that is not processing. That is verbally processing,
Yeah.
but that's not processing
Yeah.
or feeling or healing.
Mhm.
That is a whole other, then we dive in there and I will say to them, did you ever actually cry about this thing? I don't have time to cry. Interesting. You've had 20 plus hours this week to think about this problem. You don't have time to cry for 5 minutes. What is it? What's the worry about crying? What do you think that's going to lead to? And kind of going from there to, because like we want to trigger the emotion. We want the emotion to come up because if we don't feel it, it continues. Avoidance always comes back, whether we like it or not, and often in ways we do not like.
Yeah. Or burying the problem only postpones the actual process of dealing with it, right? Like you eventually it's going to happen. The only way to I don't know if you've seen that metaphorical, like the dirty water on Instagram where like it's like soil or something inside of water and it's all mixed up and stirring around, and like that's your metaphorical trauma or issues or concerns or worries and like your anxieties, depression, but you're not addressing it. So how do you get rid of that water? Because you can't just dump it out. Like that's, nixing it, and that's not going to work. So like how do you get rid of that? And the only way to do that is to pour clean clear water directly into it until it starts to like push the dirty water out of the cup, and it overflows over and over and over again until all the dirty water's gone and it's just the clear water in the cup. And it's kind of like it's going to sit there and fester until you actually pour into yourself what you need to get it out, and whatever that looks like, whether that's crying or going to therapy or like seeking out supports from people like you. It's true. And I joke that like this was my hack at therapy by starting the show, because like at the time when I left the bureau, I was like, I can't afford a $250 bill, for a professional therapist or something like that.
Well, I guess that's like if you're not taking insurance, which like I
Mhm.
am not in that world,
Yeah.
but wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're expensive, which is why I think stuff like I would talk like the talk therapy stuff, BetterHelp skyrocketed and stuff during COVID, and
Yeah.
I've also heard horror stories about those programs in different ways, and, like, some people love it, some people hate it. I think it just kinda depends on who you get matched with and stuff, but I didn't do it, so I originally was being sarcastic, like, "I'm gonna just talk about how I feel and start the show and see what happens." You were sitting there talking about it's good, but did you process it? Like, you should be over it by now, or you're telling yourself to be over it by now, and that kinda resonated to me. It was kinda like, I think I'm mostly over it, but it's not necessary. I don't think I'll ever be over the fact that I had to let that life go, but I've accepted the fact that I needed to let it go in order to move forward. Losing that original dream or having that door close before I got to close it myself. Like most people, they can retire or they choose to leave for whatever, a different opportunity, a different thing. I kind of felt like I have to leave or else I'm going to hate my life. And I didn't want to hate my life at the end of 25 years of that kind of career. It was like, I don't want to retire because they rotate you out. So like I don't want to retire at 45 and be like, I'm done. I'm estranged from my family. I'm not married. I don't have kids. Like, yeah, I had this super cool career and I did all these amazing things and worked international cases and blah, blah, blah. But like, I don't own a home. I've not hit any other milestones really. And not that those milestones are necessary for having a happy life, but it was just kind of like, I had that thought, I don't want to get out of here and hate myself later. So I need to leave and figure out what it is I really like and what I really want and what'll actually make me happy. So I don't know if I'm doing it the right way or not. I'm probably not, but, like, I think that that's kinda where I landed on the whole getting over it situation where, like, I don't think I'm actually ever gonna be over it, but I have accepted that ending doesn't mean an actual end. It's just like I now have an opportunity to do something different and apply myself in a different way that might be more fruitful or at least more aligned with what I've always wanted to do, you know?
Right. Like it sounds like you're grieving like the loss of that version of yourself. And the tricky part about grief is that it never really goes away. We get better at navigating it. We know what we learn from it. We know that we cared about that version, but you lost a version of you. We can love our job. We can love certain things about it. We can understand it hurts us. But just like with like difficult relationships, you're like, "Oh, but when it does feel good, it feels so good.
Right.
And when it doesn't, it feels terrible and I've lost myself." But ultimately, at some point, either the job loses us or we lose the job. So
Mhm.
in this context. And for whatever reason, like closing time came into my head, like every new
Yeah.
beginning, some other beginnings end. And I think that that is a really good reframe, honestly, and that we have to be able to recognize that. Oh gosh, this is like so cliche. One door opens, another door, or one door closes, another door opens, right? Like we are learning from each opportunity. And when each opportunity ends, something else, just by the nature of it ending, is upon us and is there for us to see as long as we choose to see it and look for it. But I can definitely identify with the experience of not loving a job anymore or not feeling like the job was right. Like we can love something and know it's not right for us.
Mhm.
I think that something that was really hard with leaving education is that I felt just like such a connection to the community. I had been there for a long period of time, like
Yeah.
for many years in the same school. I had been the longest standing member, right? But then it just was not serving me in the same way that it had in the past. I was just like exhausted. I was anxious. I would go into the building and I would immediately feel like my cortisol levels rising, like my blood would be boiling in certain situations. I have always been pretty even keel as a educator, and there would be sometimes where I would find myself being like, "Oh dang, I'm about to pop off. I need to like time out myself in my office and take a breath because you're becoming emotionally inconsistent when things happen because you don't have enough time to regulate." And the hardest part about school social work is, especially in under resourced schools, you're not really doing your job, right? Like you're doing 12 jobs. You are lucky and like we are mandated to meet mandated clients. And I would meet mandated clients and find myself not being able to go to the bathroom or eat lunch, et cetera, because I felt like I need to make sure this happens. But every time I leave my office, a fire pops off. I'm having to resolve it. I'm being asked to support it. I'm being asked to cover a class. I'm being asked to step in here.
Right.
And at that point, recognizing you are serving other people at a disservice to yourself. And so we can still help people while also taking care of our needs. And we can't do that in this space. That doesn't mean that we don't love the space we're in, but we don't love the person we become or the way our life becomes when we're in it. And like now, like stepping away from that, I can see that this was an opportunity for me to learn how to take care of myself so that I can better take care of others. I show up a lot better when I have, eaten a meal or gone to the bathroom or had a coffee or six in the day. Like I will say, like, I still have a major caffeine problem and I need to work on that.
No,
However, I'm like getting
yeah.
8 hours of sleep for the first time in a decade, and
Good
like
for
that's
you.
crazy.
Yeah.
But I do think that's the biggest, like one of the biggest things I've learned is I really can show up for people because I've shown up for myself, because I take care of myself more than I did before and more than I was capable of doing
Right.
before. And so, yes, is there grief about what that life was like and maybe things I could have done differently, or maybe it would have been more sustainable had I fill in the blank? But I choose not to focus on that because I have to focus on now. Okay, that everything that happened has made me who I am. And how do we build on that? And how does the old version of Amanda now influence
Sure.
the new version of Amanda, right? And what did you learn? And how can we continue learning from the things we struggle with? And how do we make our jobs the method of how we pay for the lives we love versus our lives paying for the jobs we love, right? Like I don't need to lose my life for my job. This is where the boundaries come in. Clients, I love you. It is after this time period. I'll see you tomorrow or the next day or the next day. Call emergency services though. Please make sure that you're not harming yourself, right? Like giving the resources and setting the boundary.
No, that's really smart, and I'm glad that you knew to do that when you transitioned out and make sure that the new life that you're trying to forge forward with can follow through on that, so you're not getting caught in the 12 different directions like you were before and not being able to eat and not being able to go to the bathroom and take care of yourself because I follow a lot of mom talk like now that just my brother and sister-in-law are having a baby and a lot of my other friends have started having babies, so I get stuff like that on TikTok a lot, and like that there's one influencer that I follow. Again, I have the weirdest For You pages for
Sorry.
stuff that doesn't involve me at all. The listeners have no idea. They're learning so much about me today. Anyway, one of the people that I follow, though, she talks about how you can't be the best mom you can be if you're not taking care of yourself first. And so her phrase is first things first, I'm first. And so she has a morning routine or whatever that she does before she goes into the baby's room to pick it up in the morning, or like she does a thing at night before she goes to pick up her sons from daycare, and like just or whatever the situation is. But first things first, I'm first. If I have to eat first before my kid so that way I don't freak out or like lose my temper when he knocks over his juice, like whatever it is you got to do that. But like, especially for you being a therapist or a social worker for the public school system in that way, you have to be able to be on point and paying attention to each individual child and like remembering what they need and what's going on because they're all going to be different and the cases are unique. And if all that starts happening and you're tired and you're blurring it together, you're not doing the service to the patients or the clients that you want to give them. And I know that that means a lot to you. And I think that's really smart to not let your career validate who you are or not getting all of your purpose only from that one thing. When I sent you the questions, I know I had one on here. You've talked about how validation can be dangerous when it comes from the wrong places. And I was, curious, maybe we could talk about what does internal validation look like for you now based on who you were the 11, 12 years ago to who you are today. And how did you learn to listen to the right internal validation or the right validation cues for you?
I'm still figuring this one out, to be honest. I will very much, and I think that like people may resonate with this. Like, I have very, very apparent middle child syndrome. So, I am the middle child. I'm one of five. I love attention, right? Like, that has been like and I feel like for a long period of time, it's been my identity that like I love attention, but I'm also like always at this battle with myself of, you have enough attention. Stop doing that.
Mhm.
And so then I give attention to people, right? I love caring for and taking care of other people, but I love being told, oh, you're a good friend. You're a good worker. I would like work my ass off to be seen at work and then not get paid enough to do it because I was literally just like doing too much. And I think that that was extremely detrimental to me because really it was coming from a place of at some point in my life, I felt like I wasn't seen or I wasn't heard or I wasn't validated. And as a result, instead of actually dealing with that hurt or that void, I was just constantly trying to fill it. Right. And I think that in like through therapy and through just like self work, because I want to make sure that that isn't something that's showing up in my practice, I've recognized the only person who can really fill that void is me. So instead of trying to get the attention from other people, instead of trying to get the recognition or being told you're the best, because like at some points I did not believe it. I didn't believe I could do things. I didn't believe I was good at things. And so I wanted to know. I wanted to know that I felt that people felt that about me, that they thought I was good, that they saw that I was doing the things that I knew I was doing, but telling myself I wasn't doing well. And so that's transitioned into me saying to myself, okay, instead of doing this thing to try and get someone else to validate you, validate yourself. Take yourself out. Tell yourself that you look really good today. Cook that thing for you, like critique it yourself. Do things to take care of you, fill you. And then that way, you're showing up in the space more authentically and feeling a little bit more whole because, like, other people can't complete me, they can only compliment me. That's the point I'm at with that. I think we so much want validations from others and we're missing the point on this. We have to actually validate ourselves. And that looks like whatever it looks like for you, whatever you feel is your lowest point of validation, working on that. If you know that you don't like your body, finding ways to move it, finding ways to appreciate it, and so on from there. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You're saying all these things and everything's resonating, and it's exactly how I feel too. Learning to not validate who I am or what I want or how I act or anything like that from other people was difficult, growing up. It's a lot of hard work to do that, to retrain your brain and your mind and your body to not care about what other people think or what other people say because we're social beings, right? It's how you learn how to participate with society is to hear and listen and communicate with everybody else around you. And if all the messaging that you're getting all the time from your phone or from the internet or from your computer or from your friend group is all about all these other perceptions of things that you're supposed to be, the things that you're supposed to have done or have accomplished or the shoulds are so dangerous. And I've come to a point in my life now where it's more kind of like, maybe I should have, but what do I want? Right? I should have done these things, but what do I actually want? Or how does that, if I were to follow through on that should, how would that actually make me feel? And if it's a good thing, then okay, great. Let's try and fix that or let's go towards it. And if it's not much of a reaction, if it's indifferent or if it's negative, then it's kind of like, all right, then we're not going there. We're not going to believe that or whatever. And a lot of it's just, for me at least, it's the reality check. I have to snap myself back into place. Or if I'm having body image issues, just as an example, it's kind of like, okay, let's really think about it, right? Compared to across the board, you're actually in the middle of the bell curve. You're pretty healthy. You can physically move. I have to remind myself, you have all of your hair. You're not going to doctors all the time. You can walk, you can talk, you can use your hands, you can take care of yourself. That kind of brings me back down to earth a little bit. Some of the times when I'm really going, okay, wait, why am I worried about whether or not I got hit on at the party, but all my friends did, and I didn't? That doesn't matter. Maybe that didn't mean anything, or maybe my person isn't at that party. So that's why it didn't happen. Or that's just, I had to learn how to not get my validation off of whether or not I was getting the same things that other people were getting or that other things were happening. That's their path. That's not your path. There's nothing wrong with that. Your stuff is different. Your timeline is different. And so it's taken a while, but it's all from self-work. All of that's internal work that I had to do to teach myself that. That wasn't something that, it didn't matter how many times my parents or my loved ones would be like, you are beautiful, you are smart, you are capable, you are whatever. I had to find a way to teach myself those things, say those things.
takes practice, right? And that's a
Mhm.
long road. Like you were saying earlier, everybody, no matter how much work they do, still has some negative self talk. Yeah, of course they do.
Mhm.
Because we also have to factor in the self talk that's coming from the environment, right? Like we are only one part of it. We only have so much control over our life and like our sphere, right? But then like you have people who are making random commentary that is unhelpful. And if someone, one person, it could doesn't matter that like 70 people could have been like, oh dang, you're gorgeous. And then one person makes a comment about like for me, someone said something about my nose one time in the fourth grade, I think.
Oh, no.
It is it is the thing that sticks, right? Like, and
Uh-huh.
that's a weird feeling. You're like,
I have one of
I
those.
know
Yeah.
that like I like my face. But if I focus on that one thought versus the 70 other good ones, that's a me problem. Right. So like being able to challenge and work through, okay, how much influence am I allowing other people on the way I think about myself? I have to practice. Okay, yeah, they said that. We're moving on. They are entitled to their thoughts and feelings. They may actually not even feel that way. They may have just said it because maybe they were having whatever is going on, right?
Yeah.
And even thinking about what you were saying about getting hit on in the bar, because I have a lot of clients dating right now, and there's a lot of comparison that goes on, right?
Yes.
Having the conversation about jealousy. If we feed jealousy, we are just putting a lot of thought into what other people have that we don't, rather than putting more effort into what we can control and what we want to do. So I saw something recently about reframing jealous thoughts to be like, take that thought, notice that person has something that I want. That doesn't mean I can't have it. Let me be happy for that person and let me go and make actions or make choices or start telling myself things that are going to guide me in the direction to get that too. Because we can all have it, right? Like, and I think, there's also like the myth of zero sum and
Mm.
thinking about
Yes.
delegation of resources to all of the humans. Oh, if they have it, then we can't have it. No, we can all have it, right? So, like, being able to recognize some of our insecurities and the need for validation and the need for people to see us or to give us things or to be recognized is not only dangerous to us, but it can also be dangerous to others, right? And like that's actually more important to me at this point is making sure that, if my own issues with validation cause harm to clients because I need them to think that I'm the best therapist, the greatest therapist ever, like, no. Like, then I'm not doing my job. So, like, I will push myself to like have conversations and ask for feedback from clients too, right? Like, hey, like what's been working for therapy for you? Like, what are the things that you think that I can do better in my practice? What are the things that we could do better? What are you looking for? And even sometimes telling clients like, hey, this thing that you need right now is out of my scope of practice. And I can sit here and work with you on blank. But if this is something that you're really trying to get into and I don't have the practice in it, like I'm not trained in EMDR,
Right.
I can,
Sure.
I'm able to work with trauma. I'm able to support trauma through other techniques. But if you need someone specialized in EMDR, I'm going to tell you, hey, let me refer you to somebody with EMDR. I don't need validation or I don't need to feel like this person needs me to the point that I hurt them. If they need something, let's give them that resource.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not to you're taking your ego out of it, right? Like you're making sure that you're doing the best that you can because you're only operating within your limits. I think that's really smart. Like just on a technical standpoint, but on a legal standpoint too, you don't want to do something that harms one of the clients, even if it was unintentional. There's no point in trying to walk that line if you don't need to. I'm really glad though that you brought up the part about jealousy because one of the follow-up questions I was going to have to you was how do you talk to your clients about the fine line between jealousy and envy? Because I've heard, I don't know if you follow the Girls Gotta Eat podcast or not, but they had an episode a few months back about talking to a psychologist about that. But that jealousy is the ugly one, right? It makes you do crazy things. It's the whole like Carrie Underwood key your car situation. Like it's not the You go to a different place, you turn into like an irrational person, you go into a fear mode. Jealousy is more like that because you're afraid something's going to be taken away from you or that it's just not going the way that you want it to go. You're trying to control something you can't control versus envy is the one that you kind of talked about where it goes, I want the thing that they have, but what can I do to make that thing show up in my life or happen in my life that fits my life the right way? Like, kind of a thing. Like, if it's the body image issues, we're using that just as a metaphorical insert here. But like, oh, wow, she looks so good, or oh, wow, he looks so good. I wish I could look like that or do that. Okay. Do you know what it takes to get that though? It's a lot of physical effort. It's a lot of dietary effort, especially in bodybuilding. It's a lot of discipline and determination to get to that kind of level of competitive performance as an athlete. Like that they walk across a stage, yes, but they are professional athletes to do that. And a lot of times building that muscle takes multiple years. Do you want to invest that kind of time and money into that effort? And if the answer is yes, okay, we can come up with a plan. We can figure out how to help you get that body. But to be so hyper focused on like, I want to be like that person, you're never going to be like that person because you are you. And that's the cool thing about life is that you get to be you. There is no other you. You can make whatever that life looks like from their perspective happen in your own, but it's going to look a little different in yours because you are different in and of itself.
And it's important when I'm working with clients just to recognize what is that jealousy serving you with. Like often our negative thought patterns and our negative feelings, they're trying to protect us in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're there because we feel a void in something. We feel like we're lacking or missing something. And rather than continuing to compare yourself with other people, how do we fill you up? What can you do? What can you change? Can you learn? Because if you really want that, like you just said, let's get you the resources to work towards that. And if you start trying that thing and you're like, maybe I don't want this that bad. Okay, well, then we shift our attention to something else, right? Like, but change is hard work. And the hardest part of change is actually starting, right? Because many of us are in pre contemplation. We're like, I don't really even know if I need to change. I don't even know if that's something that I want to do. I want to talk about it all day. I want to talk about this thing that I want from somebody else, but I don't actually want to do anything about it. And then as time goes on, if we start seeing, I do actually like whatever this is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like learning about financial literacy. I enjoy math now as an adult. Said no one ever, except accountants, I guess. But
Right.
like, I enjoy this. And as time goes on, maybe I'm more open to the idea of change. Maybe I'm more open to the idea of saving. Maybe I'm more open to the idea of navigating start the stock market. And then maybe eventually I become a millionaire because my crypto takes off. Like, I have no idea about any of this. My partner's into crypto and I'm just like bullshitted the whole thing. But that's the thing though. It's like,
Yeah.
if that's the example we're working with, it starts with an idea. And just like my goal with clients is to introduce the possibility of, well, what makes you think that can't happen? You know, if they say, I could never blank, okay, what makes you think that? Where does that come from? Does that come from a place of like someone told you you weren't able to do this? Does it come from you tried to be a pole vaulter and it didn't work out? Because, like, same. But that doesn't mean that you can't do other things. Maybe we aren't trying to be an Olympic athlete, but if we're trying to just practice health and wellness, you can look up a YouTube video and start doing some exercises. If you have some like physical limitations, then we can do chair yoga. Like, let's figure out the resource for you.
Right. That's smart. And I love that. If you were to have a client that came in and said something similar to that, like, I want this thing, but I don't really know how to get it. And like, if we're going to do insert example for any of the listeners that are feeling lost or like kind of stuck in their lives and they know they need to make a change. They know they need to try something new. They know they need to get out of their rut, but they really just don't really know how. If a client were to come into your office and say something like that, Miss Rainey, I feel stuck and I don't know who I want to become or where I want to go. What would you say to somebody that said, I feel lost? What would you do to help them work through that as a therapist?
I think that I would probably start with what would make you feel found? What does lost mean to you? Because lost to them may not be the same as lost to me. So it starts with a lot of questioning and exploring, where does that feeling come from? When did you start feeling lost? And what would it look like to feel found? Does that mean being seen by others? Does it mean being able to get a job? Does it mean finding resources to make sure you're fed tonight? Does it mean working towards better relationships with my family or my partner, whatever the problem is? Because like often being lost is just another state of like cognitive confusion and chaos, right? Like feeling like things just aren't making sense as they are, and understanding that sometimes things don't make sense when we're in them, and finding the direction we want to go helps us to make more sense and create a sensible or a place that makes more sense, right? Because I think sometimes too, and you were talking a little bit about this earlier, we create our perception of what should be based off of the environment and what other people say, and that can make us feel lost. And so recognizing, do you feel like you feel lost because everybody says you should be like this? What do you actually want? And starting and going from there. And then based on how they answer, we would explore, we would support, we would validate. Lost is just it's like a state of change. It's necessary to figure out what we want to do next.
Yeah. Can you take us back to a time when you felt lost in life, and how did you navigate through that period or those feelings for yourself, and what made you end up feeling found at the end? Or if you feel
I feel
found,
lost. Well, I feel lost all the time. Honestly, I did feel pretty lost at the end of my education career because I knew I did not want to be there anymore. And that felt weird.
yes.
It felt like, oh, we've worked here for so long. In my head at the time, I was like, do you have enough to show for it? What happens if you do this? What
Yeah.
happens to the people you work with? But also being able to recognize that, okay, this is all I've ever known. Maybe I feel so lost because this just doesn't feel right anymore. It was more than just uncomfortable. It was like I felt empty. Like I wasn't, the things that used to make me happy no longer made me happy. The things that I used to thrive in were no longer there. And so I started talking to my therapist about it. I started talking to my friends about it. I started looking at resources for, okay, I know I want to do social work, but are there other ways to do this? And I asked for help, right? Like I think it building and growing yourself can be a very isolating process, but it doesn't have to be, right? You can ask other people. I remember asking one of my friends, hey, I know you're a career changer. What did you do? How did this look like for you? I'm not even making like a major career shift. I'm just switching my title, I guess. I'm actually doing my job now,
Right.
but still providing therapy. What does it look like to go to a place where I feel supported, where I can do the work I want to do? And I just put a lot of feelers out and tried to figure out what's next. But that took a lot of like self reflection. It took a lot of, okay, am I willing to learn some new skills and get some certifications? It took conversations with people about what it could look like to change and how I could make that transition. And then I felt really lost when I started the job. My schedule is completely different. My life's completely different. I wake up 3 hours later every day. Wow, I have time for myself. Even when things were going well, I was still feeling very lost in that because,
Yeah.
again, lost the cognitive like confusion. It just wasn't what I was used to, right? I kind of felt like, the Mac used to do this thing where it would just spin, right? When the computer was confused or frozen or whatnot. And I feel like that's like me once a week. And then when that happens, I like, okay, it's time to take a break. Let's take a break. Let's figure out what we need and let's go from there.
No, and that's smart, right? That you're actually taking the time. And it sounds like throughout this conversation though that you've had multiple times where you've had to reframe yourself or reframe your identity. So I'd love to transition a little bit into talking about your new profile on Instagram. I admit I'm sorry if it's also Rainy Reframes on TikTok or not. I don't know, but at least I follow it on Instagram. I love it. And so you're doing all these little snippets every day, but I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about what encouraged you to start doing the reframe clips, and what does, reframing mean to you now? And is there kind of like a recent reframe that you've worked on for yourself?
So I started this account as a way to provide access to resources for people who may not necessarily have found a therapist yet, right? Because I know that it can be really difficult to process and deal with the state of human existence as it is, but also just our minds are constantly just reeling and going. And so, in some ways, this account has been a really good outlet for me to talk through and practice my framing on different techniques and strategies for clients because I will come up with metaphors or I'll think about something and I'll talk about it and I'm like, okay, I can use that in sessions too. And then it became people would message me and say, what are your thoughts on something like this? Like, how do I navigate this type of situation? And instead of telling them what to do, instead I will talk about my thought process or questions that they could ask themselves. Cause I think the reframe that's really needed is like, we don't need people to tell us what to do. We just need to explore each of those situations a little bit more. We often already know the answer. We just feel uncomfortable making that choice.
Yeah. So if you can kind of slowly back yourself into agreeing with that decision that you've already made internally by asking yourself those questions first, then you can probably go like, okay, all right, that is really how I feel. That's for real the answer. Let's just go with that.
Yeah, and often people will say, "Well, I thought the therapist would give me the answers." No.
No,
And if your therapist is giving the answer, like, honestly, unless it's like a safety concern, like
sure.
really safety concern, I'm not telling you what to do. Someone the other day was like, "Am I making a bad decision?" And I'm like, "What makes you think it's a bad decision?" Right? Like, and they're like, "Oh my God, you always do this." And I'm like, "Well, I want to know." Right? And then often by the time that they've explained it, and I'm like, "Okay, well, does that sound like a bad decision?" And they're like, "No, it doesn't." And I'm like, "Okay." And they're like, "You didn't tell me anything." And I'm like, "Yes, I didn't need to because you told yourself. You just needed to hear someone else ask you questions about it so that you could confront it with yourself."
External validation, right? Like I'm having this internal conflict. Am I right with myself? Yes or no? And the therapist can't do that. They can prompt you, right? But they can't give it to you. That's smart. What have you've only been doing it, I think, for, a couple of months now, but how has doing the Rainy reframes impacted your life so far?
I've gotten a lot more comfortable being on camera. I've gotten a lot more comfortable talking about different strategies and emotions and providing better context. I also feel less insecure about sharing my own experiences, right? You don't do that really as a therapist. You may provide context from time to time, but I try not to do that because those sessions are not about me, they're about them. And so ultimately, this is like a space where I can kind of share a little bit of myself and normalizing the fact that like your therapist may be a hot mess, honestly, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
but actually, that's okay because we're all allowed to have our own internal chaos and then I can show you how to work through it. That is the goal. Like if I'm in here presenting as perfect, presenting as like I have my shit together, that is just a lie, right? So like being able to normalize, it's okay to feel this way, to have the cognitive chaos and to have the self-doubt. And we can also start working through that and supporting each other through that process and reframing what it looks like to be the humans that we are.
Well, Emily, this has been honestly so fun. We didn't really reminisce necessarily with each other, but if I'm ever up in New York, I'm definitely going to call you and say hi and
In
catch up.
Tennessee, I mean, come back to the South at some point.
Yeah, well, you're always welcome. And I'm in a really small town now, but I'm very close to Nashville, so I can pop back over whenever. But whenever you're back, it'd be so much fun to see you or to catch up or to find you in New York too. This has been really great. I think a lot of the listeners will get a lot of really good insights out of this, and hopefully, this conversation has encouraged people to seek help if they need it and understand how much benefit they can get from talking through things with somebody that's in a profession like yours that can help them with thinking through their trauma and not just burying it and letting it fester or get in the way of whoever it is that they want to become, and like helping them realign their life in a way that's going to be beneficial for them and help them be happy. So let everybody know if they want to interact with you or they want to follow the reframes cognitive tips and tricks. Like let us know the best way to reach out or contact you.
Yeah, they can follow me on TikTok or on Instagram at Rainy Reframe. names. And then they can reach out to you personally if they want my email address, if they're looking for resources specifically in New York.
Yeah.
That is the only state I work in. But I can also support with maybe finding resources in other states too if needed. Thank you so much for having
Yeah. No,
me.
this has been so fun. I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed it and learned a lot myself. So, and it's helped me feel better about my chaos and processing. It's kind of like, all right, I can figure this out too. If her 5-year-old clients can do it, I can sure as hell do it. So,
My 5 to like 80-year-old clients can do it. Like really, like
yeah.
you are never too young or too old to work through and reframe your experience. So thank you so
Yeah.
much. And
No,
I will
this is
see you soon.
yes. Yeah. All right, everybody. We're closing out. You know how to find me. Hello at podcastforthelost.com. Send me an email if you ever have listener questions. We will read them on the Wednesday episodes. All of my socials are Podcast for the Lost. We are on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. Reach out. Let us know what you loved about the show, and we'll catch you next week. And remember, wanderers are always welcome.